Hello and welcome to another episode of Sneaking Into Movies. I'm your host, Chris, with my co-host, Jason. How we doing, Jason?
Better than Trump at that debate.
Oh, okay, taking it right there. Better than Trump at the debate. Well, I don't know how quite to react to that, but so we're going to be reviewing 2024's Rebel Ridge, a Netflix movie, just came out, starring Aaron Pierre and Don Johnson. Jason, what do you think of this movie? What do you think of this movie?
Are we giving it a rating? You want me to just rate
We're
it
going to
off the
save
bat?
the rating. Just let's talk about it. Would you recommend this movie?
Would I recommend this movie?
Yeah.
I think I would recommend this movie.
Okay.
But I have to tamp down on some of these reviews that you see out there. It has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wild.
No Country for Old Men had a 93%. No.
Okay.
I recommend it, but just know you're watching a boilerplate action movie.
A boilerplate action movie, I agree. Now, Jason, when I saw the trailer, I was like, I'm going to like this movie. And then when I watched the movie, I was like, nah. That's called a callback into the movie. Good reference there. Okay, Jason, let's move on to the acting of said film. Aaron Pierre. Do you know Aaron Pierre? He did a movie, the one where you get old on the beach.
Oh, yeah. Old, right? With
Yes,
M. Night Shyamalan? Yes.
Let me tell you about, what do you think of Mr. Aaron Pierre in this movie?
In this movie,
Yeah.
I'm going to call back to Trump and his black jobs. Foreigners are taking black jobs. This is a black Brit.
I was going to say that. My whole thing.
I know. And when I heard him talk, I was like, why does he sound like my cousin Stephen? Because he's from England.
Yeah.
And this guy played Malcolm X.
That's
just not too long ago. Okay, we got to import him. Okay, we can import talent.
The London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art.
Yes,
taking American jobs.
I'll tell you, there was something about his evenness through the whole movie.
Yeah.
He really doesn't raise his voice. That heart rate doesn't go up. He was just steady through the whole thing, and he really embodied de-escalation.
Okay.
Until he started hitting people.
Until then. Jason, the whole time I'm watching it, when I realized he was British, is like that Key and Peele sketch where like it was the British actor playing the gangster. I was like, what? That's actual gangsters. Like, no. I mean, he's fine. It could a little too stoic, maybe boring for me. I really felt like, if I'm being honest with the film, it was like there were a few good moments, those action moments where he takes his gun from Don Johnson and things of this nature. The rest of it, my God. Let me just say this. The opening scene was so bad. It was one of the most, it's like caricatures of, like, I understand the point of they're trying to raise these, like, police tension and how little small towns it can be and the corruption of a small town like that. But my God, it was so horrible. It like pained me to watch it. I know we were going to review it, but it was so bad. I just like, and then to see people say how much they love it, I'm like, I must be watching something else, or I can't get past certain things, because that was like the caricature, like how they portray the small town police. I'm like, it's too much. It's too much for me.
I saw this review from this other channel that I watched, and he was talking about how there was no race aspect in the movie, and he said there really wasn't. He was harassed by small town cops not because he was black, but because he was in a place where they do civil asset forfeiture. And I went, honestly, I don't really care. There was the line where they're like, let's string him up, and the black cop was like, no, that's not going to happen. There's a little bit of race, but the racial undertone really wasn't even adversarial against the cops.
No.
Like, no Tyreek Hill action going on. This was just straight up, they're crooked cops.
Yeah.
But they kind of just reminded me of the Dukes of Hazzard.
It's very much Dukes of Hazzard. And listen, there's part of me, I have like this, like, when you're raised by like a progressive and a conservative, you develop a sort of Swiss-like diplomacy. The same thing when like you have, progressive friends and then also family in police. You sort of see both sides of it, so you have an empathy of both.
Trump,
And
both sides call back. I like it. Good people, both
Jason,
sides.
not Jason. Okay, my point is, it was like just, I almost feel a sense of like empathy to small town police forces of like when you hear about the cuts and the things. It all, and then the other side, it's like, well, you can't also buy like a mini tank for that, town of 200, or you know what I'm talking about. But I feel for that. I actually thought Don Johnson as the corrupt sheriff was like the best part of it. He has at least some legitimacy as an actor, especially as of late. Kind of shrug off the 80s sort of like TV star, and now he's done a little bit more. Tarantino helped him out, so to speak. But yeah. Anyway,
well, let me just ask you this is the part that made me kind of just go, I don't understand what the point of this is. They shoehorned in her being addicted to opioids.
I know.
It was absolutely unnecessary.
Terrible.
I get it. It is, you're like, oh, small town. I think it's Louisiana, but small town, and poor people, they do drugs, and let's put that in the story. And I went, what? That was 30 minutes that you could have cut out and made this a better movie. Unnecessary.
It was bloated. It was so bloated. That's what I'm saying. In those action films, you can almost like fast forward to those, like you see this sort of like just build up. It was almost like a paint by numbers type of film where it's just, follows this sort of like story. You could kind of tell when it was built up to like, action climax 1, character development. And then it just left me, it just felt kind of soulless in a sense to me, like just too safe in a sense. And that final, and I know this is like spoiler ridden if you haven't seen the movie, but like the end thing with the sort of big showdown with the cops, and it's just smoke grenades, and we're not killing anybody, and it's like, it's just I don't
less
know.
Than lethal. Less than
lethal. I hear you.
The movie was less than lethal.
The whole movie was less than. That's a great way to describe it.
That should be the name.
That's it.
There was a Tom Cruise movie, and it was something like Live, Die, Repeat, something like that.
Changed the name.
And they changed the name because they went, okay, that's not a very good name. Less Than Lethal is the name of this movie. That's what we should just call it.
Oh, okay, we're calling
lethal.
that. We've decided we're going to call it Less Than Lethal.
Yes, it's Less Than Lethal because at no point, I even saw an interview with a director where he said we cut some scenes because we just knew it didn't look believable, where I guess they were kind of getting the upper hand on the main character, and they're just like, that's not believable. And I'm just going, I see all of these comparisons to Rambo First Blood, and then honestly, like the callback is from some movie from 40 years ago. Okay, great, whatever. But this was just 2 hours long, a half an hour too long. There was the one scene that made me roll my eyes the most was he's leaving town. I'm done.
Yeah.
Bad stuff's happened. And then he gets the call, and the white girl tears start coming through the phone, and you see him go, oh no. And he whips the dually around and goes back to town. You were done.
Yeah.
You were done. I don't understand how. I was like, the movie's done right there.
I was done in the first scene. I could not believe it. I mean, I also thought it's not like Netflix went crazy. It was like, it's still 26, 20, something like that, $1 million to produce this film. And I get, Don Johnson's got to eat. He's got his writers. You know what I mean? The rest of it, Lee, I cannot recommend this film. I know what you're saying about action film. I mean, if it's a Netflix film, I guess I take that back. But there's been just these strings of mid-city action films on Netflix. My goodness, that is just like, I am so disappointed. Even those, the one with like The Rock Johnson, is it Red
Notice?
Something? Come
Red Notice.
on. It's like going to a beautiful like big mansion, and it looks good on the outside, the facade, and then inside it's just like terrible. So that's how I feel about all of those. Okay, Jason, we're gonna keep this review a little shorter today because we're gonna cut it up and be a little bit more palatable. So overall, we're gonna rate this movie. We're gonna rate Rebel Ridge by Netflix 2024. Jason, what would you score this movie?
I'm gonna go with a 3. I could give it a
3
solid
out of
3.
5.
I give it a solid 3.
Okay, Jason gives it a solid 3. I give it a 1.5 out of 5.
That is vicious. That's vicious.
Life's vicious, Jason. Reality's vicious. I give it a 0.5 for that one scene where he said, nah. That was cool. I give it a 0.5 for that where, like, he grabbed his gun and sort of like that first DS, that, like, whatever his military thing is where he kind of, like, do it with his hands. Okay, fun. Half a point there. And then I guess half a point for Don Johnson. But so many deductions. I cannot stand that level of, like, when you're trying to make a bit of a message about the corruption there and it's such a caricature, I just cannot, I can't get past it.
Well, let me, there's two points I want to make.
Okay.
1 point, there was no sex scene, and I was so happy that they didn't just go to, like, the bare minimum, hey, guys are watching, they're going to want to see this. They didn't even waste their time doing it. What I've read is, and I've seen some articles where this has opened up the discussion about civil asset forfeiture. And I didn't look and see if the director, I think he wrote and directed it. I didn't look and see if he actually had an opinion on this or if this was a big deal. But what do you think about having a message in a movie? Was this an effective message that civil asset forfeiture is bad, and just cloaking it in small towns need money because they're losing revenue isn't a good enough reason because people get hurt? Do you think it was effective, or do you think there will still be people that go, no, as long as the cops think that you're doing something wrong with the money, they should be able to take it?
Do I like to get my message this way? I prefer my message in a bottle. But Jason, if I'm going to get it this way, I'm going to tell you it's a
I'm like,
I cannot help myself. I cannot help myself. Jason, will it get lost? I think people, I'll be honest with you, I think they just accept that sort of like you said, the Dukes of Hazzard type of, who was the bad cop in the Haas? Who was the...
Roscoe P. Coltrane?
Yeah, Roscoe P. Coltrane, yes. I think they accept it, and I don't know. Will it get lost in that? Maybe. I think people just will use the action just like Rambo, and people can't tell you much about Rambo other than, what Rambo did.
His name?
His name, exactly right. Yeah. All right, Jason. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week for another episode of Sneaking Into Movies. Thanks so much.
Yay.
Okay, wait.
Are we still recording?